Welcome to the January 26, 2023 meeting of the Stockbridge Selectboard. Let us stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody wants to. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
liberty and justice for all.
Yay. Okay, all right. So we are going to start with a brief public and then an executive session presentation on the rest of River. So Steve, do you want to kick that off? This is Steve Schatz, the Stockbridge Rest of River representative on the cleanup of the Stockbridge. I'm sorry, the cleanup of the Stunning River.
Sometimes
one of those.
Sometimes known as the Rest of My Life Committee.
Right.
Well, just to bring you up to date, for those of you who did not see the article, Larry Parnas's article in the Eagle yesterday, it's
an NPR story.
It's a very good article. It's factual, it's accurate, and it takes you up through the filings in the Circuit Court, the United States Circuit Court of Appeals for the First Circuit. It starts with the permit to do the work in the river was issued by EPA. The permit was subsequently challenged in the Environmental Appeals Board in Washington. It's an administrative court. It was eventually revised based upon new work plans that had been negotiated, and also a permit which involves the designation of a landfill in Lee, a specific landfill for a portion of the contaminated sediments. That ruling by the Environmental Appeals Board was appealed by a group called Houstonic River Initiative. Tim Gray is the principal actor in that nonprofit. And the appeal was filed in the United States Circuit Court. Now, the Circuit Court of Appeals
You can come in.
is the appeals court just below the Supreme Court of the United States. So you need to know that we're already up in the elevated levels of the federal court system. Now, the briefs have been filed by HRI, by General Electric. The rest of the River Committee filed a brief also 2 weeks ago. And there are a series of reply briefs that get filed and some electronic work that has to be done in order to make all of the case statements consistent with one another. That will take place by the end of February. And thereafter, the Court of Appeals, this is going to be heard by, I believe, a 3-judge panel. It could be larger, but it will be at least a 3-judge panel. We'll schedule oral arguments or not, as the case may be, but it's more likely that there will be oral arguments in this case, which will be conducted probably early summer. And then thereafter, it's anyone's guess as to when the court is going to render a decision, but it could be 6 months at the earliest, bringing it up to the end of 2023, and it could also go over into 2024. Now, the question becomes, what happens if, when the decision is rendered by the Court of Appeals, is there further appeal? And the answer is yes. An appeal can be filed with the United States Supreme Court. I'm sitting here, I can't tell you whether or not that's likely to happen. It really depends upon who wins and who loses. I also, since I'm not very good at odds making, I can't tell you whether or not we're going to win or they're going to win. I think we have a very strong case. We've won consistently at every level. We've had very good lawyers representing us, and I have a high degree of confidence that we will be successful. But having said that, it may not happen. Judges may look at this in a very different way. If this winds up in the Supreme Court, 2025 at the earliest, it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, the good thing that's happened is that as part of the alternative dispute resolution that we went through, that is the mediation process, General Electric agreed as part of that to undertake all of the planning work that was necessary in order to effectuate the work, the physical work in the river, to undertake that immediately. And that is a process that takes approximately 2 years. So they are a long way now along the process of completing the work plans. The most recent work plans that we have are work plans that were prepared for the work to be undertaken in Woods Pond. Woods Pond is in Lenox, as I think everyone knows. It is the location of substantial contamination, both in the pond itself and also in backwater areas, and there's some vernal pools there, which are highly sensitive. They filed a work plan, a draft work plan several weeks ago. We, that is our committee, with the help of our engineers and our other environmental consultants, have filed a set of comments that are designed to enhance the work in that area. And we will be doing that. I'll say some more about this in executive session, but we will continue to do this for as long as the committee continues to exist. And how long? The work plan is 10 years.
All right.
So that's the public briefing on where we are, and I'm prepared to tell you more about what transpired in the executive session of the rest of the River Committee last week in executive session.
And is the sediment discussion part of executive session?
Excuse me?
The sediment, I saw something that came across around requesting an update of the analysis on the sediment from 20 years ago.
Well, that is in fact, that is in the comments that we made.
Right.
And that I sent you those comments, and I will continue to send you the comments. I mean, look, they're long and it's very technical, and you're not going to read it all. But if you have questions, it's a good place to take a look. Generally, the summary in the first pages will be sufficient. There will be more as we go along. The next work plans will probably deal with the landfill itself, and then subsequent to that, you'll see work plans related to the dams in Lee. The Eagle Mill Dam and the Columbia Dam, and I can never remember which of them is which. One of them is still in operation. The other one has been breached. And so there'll be that, and there'll be work plans that, will go on for a long time relating to the other dams down the river, the Onyx, Hurlburt, now Onyx Dam, which is very much in operation as a hydroelectric dam. The hydroelectric dam in the Glendale section, and then ultimately the Rising Pond Dam, which is a very important dam because of the amount of contamination that is sitting in Rising Pond.
Right.
So.
Do you want to entertain questions from the public? There's hardly, not many people here, or does anyone have any questions for Steve before we go into executive session?
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Steve.
No? Hearing none? What? Oh, you do. Nick Nadorf.
I know there's a certain amount of money that'll go to Stockbridge as the rest of the river plan suggests.
Yes, that's correct.
Is there any benefit our golf club could have? Because probably that's the most widely contaminated area in Stockbridge. And I golf there, and I think probably I've been exposed, and I've actually offered my liver for examination.
We don't want your liver.
Well, the good news is that the level of PCB contamination in the floodplain, which is what you're talking about, in Stockbridge is very, very low. Yeah, so it's not an issue. None of us are going to you may get sick when you hit a golf club, but that's for other reasons.
But the money that will go to Stockbridge,
Yes.
how are the breakdown of the percentages that's going to go different places? I'd like to see Stockbridge Golf Club benefit some. Because
That'd be a,
That's a decision for the Board of Selectmen at the time at which the money is received.
So how do we lobby for that?
It may be years before we get the money. Lobbying till we get
A
money.
golfer on the Board of Selectmen, is that what you're telling me?
You don't want to meet
and
with.
maybe another couple more of those clay courts would be nice, Okay.
I will just tell you, Nick, that the hope of the rest of the river committee was that the funds which will come out of that $55 million escrow would be used for some environmentally related projects.
Fair enough, I mean,
Okay?
This grass there. Okay,
That's
so,
just our hope, that's all.
thank you.
so we are going to use exemption 3 to enter executive session. We're going to leave the room. We have a special permit hearing at 6:30, so we will be out of the room for no more than 20 minutes, and we will return to public session at the end of the executive session. So with that, no further ado. A roll call.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session. Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Patrick. I make a motion, we come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Jamie.
All right. So we're going to re-enter the public session of the meeting. We have a special permit hearing at 6:30. However, the applicant has indicated that she left the file on her desk in Lennox, and she's asked us to move on with other business, and we're going to pick that up when she gets her file here. So we're gonna move on. Do we have any announcements by members or the town administrator? Michael, you have anything for us that you want to talk about?
Just that I had sent around the sub-grantee agreement for BCAC for the money for them to expand their weatherization program, which you guys had already
Did send that?
to approve
Yeah.
the ARPA funds, 16,000.
And do you need us to take action on that, or is it just for FYI?
Nope, you already just
Yeah, I know.
FYI. I have the preliminary assessment back on the Tuckerman Bridge. So we're gonna move to the next phase, and that was they had to determine the elevation levels and the rest of a 25-year flood with the floodplains down there. It did get complicated. We're gonna have to do some additional borings. So right now we're working on scheduling those. So there's gonna be at times for a couple days, there could be one direction shut down for a little bit.
What's that going to do to your golf course, Nick? No, I'm kidding. All right. Let's see. Anybody else you want to talk about?
Oh, so I will speak about the Massachusetts Municipal Association meeting, which was January 20th, Friday and Saturday, where Stockbridge won an award for the Ice Glen project that Patrick had submitted a application in October, I believe. And it was the project with the trees, the stand of trees in the Ice Glen. And we, out of all of the municipalities in Massachusetts, were one of the 3 towns of equal size that won an award. So it was really nice. And the governor, the new governor, Maura Healey, spoke. And so this is an association where all town managers or elected officials or municipal employees are invited. And there's education, there's workshops, and it was just nice to be around people who get it, like who do the same kind of work. And so that was nice. And anything else?
No. And I just wanted to thank the Agriculture and Forestry Commission for all their hard work on Ice Glen.
Yeah.
That's really the folks who got this award, and I submitted on their behalf, and I think your guys are doing great work. Women and men are doing great work, and keep it up. You got a great recognition. Okay, anything else? Let's see.
Coffee and conversation.
Oh, yeah, let's, no, it's not that. I had one announcement, but
I want to
it's,
do the licenses.
yeah. So on February 13th, we are going to have coffee and conversations with Representative Paul Mark. Is I'm sorry, Senator Paul Mark. Geez, I keep doing that. He got an upgrade of his job. Yeah, and it was with Senator Paul Mark and possibly Representative Smitty or no?
I haven't had a chance yet.
Okay, all right, there's a chance we may get both of them, but we know for sure it's February 13th at 10 a.m. It's going to be in this room. We're going to have like, we're going to light the fireplace and, kind of, have some cider and eggnog and, probably coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. But it'll be nice and it'll be a great chance. If you have any questions for our state senator, it'll be great to come in and please attend in person. We're also going to stream it via Zoom if anybody wants to check in via Zoom. So that's Monday the 13th at 10 a.m. All right, we're going to keep going there. Let's see. I'm going to skip down to the one-day alcohol licenses.
Yep.
So we have an agenda item to take action on one-day alcohol licenses with Berkshire Botanical Garden from time for art openings on March 9th from 3 to 5, March 31st from 5 to 7, May 5th from 5 to 10, June 30th from 5 to 10, and September 1st from 5 to 10. Any discussion on those, the public or the board? I'm hearing none. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we grant the permits.
I'll second it.
Okay, so that one's done.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Oh, yeah, that too. Okay.
My new job.
That's we already signed up, Chuck. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. Okay, anyways, all right. I think we should,
What about this one?
no, I know. What's that?
This one?
Yeah, that's an easy one.
That's easy.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we have an opening in town for a part-time position for the Stockbridge Council on Aging. And I believe that Michael, Jack Gremley and Diane Sheridan from the Council on Aging board. And Michael interviewed 3 candidates. And Michael, do you want to tell us how that went?
Yeah, we had interviewed 3 candidates. We rated them and then we put together our results in the sheet that I have in front of you. We felt as though we had 2 strong candidates, Joanne Levitt and Roxanne McCaffrey. And the recommendation is to offer the position to Roxanne McCaffrey.
Any comments from the public or from the board?
No, make a motion, we appoint Roxanne McCaffrey to the position.
I'll second it.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, congratulations, Roxanne. And next, we're going to move on to consideration of a proposal via town meeting warrant article under the Commonwealth General Laws, Part 1, Chapter 39, Section 16, to change the Finance Committee from appointed by the moderator to either appointed by the Board of Selectmen or to be elected by the voters of Stockbridge. Michael, I see you here. Do you want to come up and, this was your idea, I think. Do you want to come up and join us and make your case? How are you?
I thought I did it last time.
Well, I couldn't keep my mouth shut, so we got to repeat it. Yeah.
So I believe that since Gary Johnson, as the moderator, has been appointing people on the finance committee for over 40 years, that it's about time that someone else has a chance to either appoint people or that people should be elected. And I would like it to be on the warrant for the town meeting. And if you select people don't want it on the warrant, I will get a citizen's petition. And that's all I have to say.
Comments?
Yeah, my point of view is we have a very good finance committee over the past 10 years plus. Stockbridge is very well suitable financial and great position. That's due to our finance committee and our select boards and previous select boards. It's working, I feel it's working really well. My recommendation would be just to leave it as is. I would not support to put this out into the town warrant.
Jamie, thoughts?
Thoughts. So in the past, I had thought of this myself. But in new light, I have been thinking about that, if the finance committee was an elected position, it would always be in flux. And with volunteerism being so low, hence the Berkshire Hills position, there was an opening and no one wanted it. I just don't know. Maybe there's something in between. Maybe the select board can appoint, or maybe, if the people really feel that that the moderator's position, it shouldn't have that much influence but I do feel the finance committee works and is working well. But I hear yeah, that's all I have for this second right now.
I just have a couple of comments. I see our bylaws kind of like the US Constitution. It's like the thing that was written a long time ago and that governs us no matter what the personalities are. Like the moderator, don't like the moderator. It's independent of the bylaws. Like individuals on the committee or don't like them, that's why we have elections. So in this case, we have the authority of the finance committee flows from the voters through the moderator to the finance committee. That is no different than if the select board appoints them, because then the authority flows from the voters through the select board. It's no different than if we elect them directly, because then it flows from the voters to the finance committee. And I personally think on the question of the select board appointing them, the finance committee plays an important role as kind of not only advisors, but also as a checks and balances. The select board in Stockbridge has a tremendous amount of power, and more so than in most municipalities in the state, because in most other municipalities, we're not the special permitting authority for most things. It would be the planning board or the zoning board of appeals. So in Stockbridge, these three folks right here, we got a lot of juice already, and I don't know that we need to aggregate more juice to this panel. And I'm not talking about the specifics of the current committee at all. I'm talking about in the long term, how we ensure that the best idea always rises to the top. So I absolutely would not support having no select board appoint the finance committee. On the question of electing them, it's hard recruiting people. And I know that because, Chuck and, and I, and now Jamie, we've got, I think there's been a couple of dozen people we've recruited since I started, and it's a lot of phone calls sometimes to get people to serve on these boards. Not to say it can't be done, but I think that if the moderator wants to help with that task, I'm fine with that. I'm not going to certainly work for or against it. If you want to do a citizen's position, I think that's great. I feel though that it would be my preference if you're going to do a petition, because you're going to have to decide whether it's select board or it's elected, that you don't go with select board, because that is something I'll actually speak out
It
against.
was never my intention for the
Okay.
select board.
Okay, good.
There are other committees here
Yeah.
that are voted in, right? The planning board. So you don't know if people wouldn't want to be on the finance committee.
Right. I think that's true. And then finally, I just would add this. I actually read this Mass General Law that I referenced in the agenda. Finance committee appointments are 3 years. Okay. One of the things that would be helpful is I have no idea whose 3-year term is up or when they're up, or it might just be nice, not because it's totally up to Gary, but sometimes I always try to call people when their term is up so that we don't just assume they want to be reappointed, because sometimes people have served enough on boards, and asking them, there's one problem, I won't mention who, but there was one person serving on a board, and I called the person up and he said, actually, I'm just too busy to be reappointed. He didn't want to resign, but he didn't want to be reappointed. So we actually found somebody else for that board. So I would just suggest, and this is totally up to the moderator, it's up to me, publish what the terms are so that folks know if they want to be reappointed. And I think that other than that, that's all I got to say.
No, I would like to see Gary stay as moderator. Yeah. I just think it's one person for that long appointing everyone is just, I find it unfair.
Right. Well, you know what I'm saying? I don't like the bylaws to be related to the personalities. I think it's really important that they work forever. And if there's a problem with them not working, then I'm going to propose 2 bylaw changes tonight. Don't get me wrong. If I see something we need to do, I'm going to propose it. But I don't think we should necessarily think about personalities with bylaws.
And I personally don't think that everyone votes for Gary is voting for him to appoint the finance committee. I think a lot of people vote for him because he's a great moderator. So that's all I have to say on this subject.
Excellent.
I wonder if anyone else has to say.
Anita.
Anybody else? Anita.
Yes, thank you. And thanks, Michael, Voiceman, for what you're doing. When I first became chair of the Democratic Town Committee, the first thing we did was submit a request to the Select Board asking for a warrant article having the members of the Finance Committee to be elected rather than appointed by the moderator. So that goes back over 6 years, let's say. I have to agree with Jamie. I liked what she said, but I hear what you're saying, Patrick, that to have people submit an application is a good way to reach out to the whole town and to have the Select Board, choose, interview, and appoint. That's a good alternative, possibly. But I do agree that there needs to be a change. And even at our candidates forum a few years ago, Gary said it was hard for him. He reached out to 25 people before he found someone for finance and to fill an opening. So, he doesn't know everyone in town. I don't know everyone in town. I think opening it to everyone in town is a good way to find out who else is qualified and give them an opportunity to possibly serve on Finance Committee, even if they don't know the person who is moderator or can't seem to get to them. I also agree that because the positions, 3 are replaced now, say in 3 in another couple of years, we don't know who's coming up the election, but it wouldn't be the whole Finance Committee at one shot. So I think it's time for a change. Thank you.
Yep. And I will just say that we're the moderator to ask Town Hall for help promoting and opening. I'm sure Michael would post it on the website without any objection. I think looking at the recent appointments, I think Georgia Marsden is an excellent addition to the Finance Committee. And so, if Gary needs help, he can ask. He's the moderator. Anyway.
My one point too is by appointing this position, you are appointing somebody that you can look into their experience, their knowledge of financing and all that. Elected, it could be elected because they have a name or people like them, they have nothing about financing. And I think that may hurt the Finance Committee in the long run. By appointing, you got more control of the quality of the people on the Finance Committee. It's a very good committee. It helps us out greatly in our budget. It has been, I've been in selectmen a long time, and it's been a pleasure working with all of them. Mm-hmm. I just feel if it goes to elected, I think it would change it way too much in the wrong direction.
I can understand that, but I would go with then appoint them by the Select Board, let people apply.
Well, I see Patrick's point too there is if we appoint them, the selectmen appoint them, they're an advisory board. And I think the more separate they are from the selectmen, the more open dialogue I think we can have to be,
Yeah.
that's how I feel. That's just my opinion.
And honestly, once again, if the moderator needs candidates and we can't find them through sort of advertising on the website, he can call any of us. We all talk to a lot of folks. I'd be happy to find him names if he ever asks. He hasn't asked so far, and we got a full finance committee. So, I think we can. Anybody else want to say something on this topic? All right, well, hearing none, let's move on to our special permit. I see Lori and Linda Shafroff in the gallery here. So kind of come on up and we'll get started.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to open the hearing. I move that we open the hearing to consider the application for a special permit hearing for Linda Shafroff at 10 Pine Street. And waive the reading of the notice and incorporate the notice into the minutes of the hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, Patrick. We got to do a roll call.
Aye, Chuck.
Hi, Jamie.
All right. Procedures. The following procedures will be followed. Testimony will be limited to the issues directly related to the subject matter. Only one person will be permitted to speak at a time. All discussions will go through the chair. All parties will conduct themselves civilly, and arguments between parties will not be permitted. All right. Will you proceed with your presentation, please?
Thank you.
Yes.
For the record, my name is Lori Robbins. I work with the law firm of Heller and Robbins. I represent the applicant Linda Shafroff, who's here with us tonight. She purchased this property at 10 Pine Street. It's in the business district. It has a pre-existing non-conforming use, which is a dwelling. She has been in business building and designing residences and some commercial structures for 22 years with her own company, Creative Building Solutions, and has built many homes here in Stockbridge. She currently has on this property a dwelling, and she has a pre-existing non-conforming structure in the back, which is a barn garage. That's what it looks like currently. It's non-conforming because it violates the rear yard setback in that it is not only within the 15-foot setback, it is quite frankly over the line. What she'd like to do with it, and this was discovered when she had a survey done after she bought the property. It was expected that it was in the backyard, but it is in fact over the line. So what she's proposing to do is demolish this and build a new structure that would be also 2 stories. The first floor would be a garage and a home office. The second floor would be a studio apartment. And the selectmen may authorize by special permit the reconstruction of pre-existing non-conforming structure to provide for its use for a substantially different purpose, so long as the reconstruction will not be in greater non-conformance with open space, yard, and off-street parking requirements or any other requirements such that the reconstruction will not be more detrimental to the existing non-conforming structure or use to the neighborhood. And I would propose that demolishing an unsightly building and building a new structure further back is going to make it less non-conforming with regard to the structure. And the proposed plans show the facade, which would be a much more desirable looking facade. In the first floor would be a garage, the home office space, a closet and a little bathroom. The second floor would have a kitchen, dining, and living bedroom. As you can see, it would be a very small
Like a studio.
apartment. That's right. So this is what it would look like with the color scheme and the materials, which is a substantial improvement over what's there now. This shows the parking. She would need 4 parking spaces, and she has 4 parking spaces, one here, one here. Quite frankly, she could get 2 there.
There, yeah.
But this is where she would primarily park her vehicle. So what she's proposing to do is have 2 by right uses in a non-conforming structure to make it more non-conforming. And the uses that she's proposing are by right in that section 4.11A2, which is a new addition to the zoning bylaw, allows that a one-family dwelling can be located in the business district so long as it's located on the second floor. And this would be proposed for the second floor. In addition, section 4.11B1 regulating accessory uses provides that the upper portion of a story of a building whose principal use is commercial, that being the downstairs home occupation, is allowed by right in the business district for residential purposes. So we're suggesting that this is a substantial improvement to the neighborhood, and the use would be not detrimental to the existing neighborhood in the business district. And I would submit that this proposed reconstruction is in compliance with your section 6.1.2, in that the new structure will not be in greater nonconformity with respect to the east yard setback. In fact, it will be further away, 7 feet away from the rear yard rather than over the side yard. It will not be substantially more detrimental than the pre-existing non-conforming structure or use to the neighborhood. The current garage barn is in very back of the lot and is in disrepair. The new structure will be much more appealing building. The use of the structure in the business district as a home occupation studio apartment will not be detrimental to the neighborhood, which is mixed right now. There's not many businesses down at that end, but it is in the business district and there are businesses in the area. This also complies with 6.3.6 in that the alteration is in compliance with all provisions and requirements of the bylaw and is in harmony with the general intent and purposes. The new two-story structure will not be in greater nonconformity and not be detrimental to the existing nonconforming structure to the neighborhood. In fact, the upgrading of property in Stockbridge is consistent with section 1.3 as it will conserve the value of land and buildings within the town. The proposed alteration reconstruction is essential or desirable to the public convenience and welfare at the proposed location because the upgrading of existing structures is a benefit to the public. The alteration and reconstruction will not be detrimental to adjacent uses or the established or future character of the neighborhood. Although this property is in the business zone, the neighborhood consists of mixed single-family and multifamily dwellings and businesses. All finished elements of the architecture and proposed structure have been proportionally designed to complement its setting and the character of the other structures in the neighborhood, so that there will not be any adverse impact on the environment, public health, or safety. The addition will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. The first floor of the new structure will be used as a home occupation for the existing dwelling unit owner. And the second floor will provide a very small apartment and therefore will not have an adverse impact on vehicular or pedestrian traffic. The proposed expansion will not overload any public services to the location. The new structure will continue to be served by town water and sewer. So for those reasons, we'd ask that the board approve the application for a special permit.
Questions?
The height of the new barn,
Less than 35 feet. I think we have an act, I think it's,
so that's okay, just,
the existing is
and the square foot,
24.5 feet is the height of this new structure.
and the square
Square
foot,
foot. The square foot of the,
same or?
yes, the square foot of the existing structure is 594 feet. The proposed new structure will have 734.67 feet. It will, no, that's the foot.
Oh, okay.
Town water and sewer, yeah.
That's all I.
So you're moving the whole mass away from the rear.
Chuck, do you have anything?
No, at this point.
I want to just point out, and this will be relevant, you'll see why in a second, how Linda has really helped the county. She developed 6 units in Lenox, where unilaterally she made 2 of them affordable housing units. And to ensure that, like, folks in Lenox, there could be some housing that local folks who are, workers could, have a place to live there. And I believe you're doing the same thing in Great Barrington. Yep. And Linda and I discussed a condition, in fact, that I believe I can say you support, that I read you earlier today, where one of the aspects of our business district is to have mixed uses to support housing for those who might be working in the district. And we discussed a condition where the residential unit created in the accessory structure must be used for long-term rental housing and that cannot be used as a short-term rental. And this is not a condition for approval, but it was nevertheless a condition that I felt and if you all would support, I believe would be good for the town. And Linda is indicating that she supports that. So I just want to let you know that I'm going to propose a condition on this permit as stated.
So the apartment above the garage would be long-term rental.
Right.
Well, it wouldn't be short-term. So, when we mention long-term, month to month, so long as it's not short-term.
Right.
Is the idea. In other words, you're not proposing that she's limited to one-year leases, but rather anything but short-term rental. And
Right.
meaning short-term rental, anything less than 30 days. So she's free to rent it to anybody for more than 30 days.
And so do you want to, just because I think the way I wrote it, we may want to edit it. I said condition 1, the residential unit created in the accessory structure must be used for long-term rental housing and cannot be used for short-term rental. Do you want to strike the part about long-term rental housing?
Yeah, it cannot be used for short-term rental.
Cannot be used for short-term rental. Okay, so.
Specifically,
got
anything
that?
less than 30 days.
All right,
Yeah.
great. And I just want to, once again, thank you, because this is going to be a studio apartment. We got a lot of people who work in town who need places to live. And this is like a real solid on behalf of the town. I just wanted to thank you for.
When it gets rid of this
You know.
old barn.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a really cool place to live. Okay, do we have anybody who wants to speak in favor of this special permit? From the public?
Nita has her hand up, but I'm not sure if that's from the left.
Nita, you got anything on this one?
I'm gonna bring this up.
No, sorry, I'll put it
All
down.
right. Anybody want to speak against this special permit? Hearing none. Okay, so we're going to now close the hearing. I move that we close the evidentiary portion of the hearing and move to deliberation by the board. Can I have a second?
Second.
And we need a roll call. Aye, Patrick.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Jamie.
Okay. What do we think?
I think it's good.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. I move that we approve with the condition so stated.
Second.
Sorry.
All those in favor? Aye, Patrick.
Hi, Chuck.
Jamie.
All right. I'm going to now entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, we gotta vote.
What?
Before or after? Oh,
We just voted, didn't we?
we already closed the public hearing. You're right.
No, and now we just took our action. Now we just got to close the public hearing. I will now entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second? Yeah, all right. All those in favor? Aye, Patrick.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Jamie.
Thank you again. Really
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it. Yep.
And you are absolutely right. She does great work and
Yeah.
has done some good social work.
Okay. On to the next thing. I got to find my little agenda here. All right, so we did that one. Just making sure we didn't miss any.
We have one more.
What?
ADU.
What?
We got-
Yeah, we got ADU. I know, we're not done yet. Yeah, God, no. All right, I'm going to wait for Michael to share the ADU when he comes back. So let's take a 1-minute break and we'll be back to talk about the two bylaws. The next thing on the agenda is to talk about a proposed accessory dwelling unit bylaw. And I'm going to attempt to go back to Zoom and, well, can people read that, or can you share? I don't really know how to use this laptop.
Sure, if you
All
stop
right, so I'm
sharing.
gonna stop my share. Give me a second. Meeting controls, is that it?
I'm gonna
Screen sharing.
kick you off.
All right, that's great.
Which one are we doing?
We're doing,
Just kick 'em
we're
out.
doing the ADU one first.
ADU first.
All right.
Tucky.
What's that?
So kick you
Tucky,
out of the
nothing.
room. Kick you out of the
Right,
room too, but
exactly.
we love you.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and somewhere in this packet is the thing I'm looking for. Okay, so I wanted to walk through, this was based on on really two things. One is the 2017 Massachusetts Model Bylaw for Accessory Dwelling Units. And the second is in 2020, Governor Baker updated the law to allow certain zoning bylaws to pass with a majority vote at town meeting rather than a 2/3 majority if you meet certain conditions. And so Donna's town council, Donna and I reviewed what we would need to do to ensure that it could pass by majority vote. So just starting at the beginning, the definitions are really fine. The key issue here is size. The model bylaw, and I believe the state requirements limit the size of, I'm sure the state requirements do, of a accessory dwelling unit to no more than 900 square feet or half the square footage of the primary structure on the lot. So I went with the maximum amount, and I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that.
But it's half of the.
It's
residential
whichever's less.
Less. So
Whichever's
if you have
less.
a 3,000
That's
square
right.
foot house, you don't get a 1,500 square foot.
That's right.
It's 900 max.
Yep. And then the next thing on this list is, I don't need it there, right here. There has to be a by right option for accessory dwelling units to pass by majority vote. And I wanted to point out that the by right option I included was an internal accessory dwelling unit to a house. So in other words, if somebody had a 5,000 square foot house and they met a couple of conditions like a separate entrance or an entrance off a hallway, they could do that by right. If it's an external or an attached structure, I suggested a special permit because it might be good for the neighbors to be able to weigh in if someone's going to build a new house on the yard. And in that case, that would be a special permit. And the options for the special permit granting authority is the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Planning Board, or the Select Board. And I opted for the Planning Board. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I figure we got enough to do.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. When we go back to the purpose of these accessory dwelling units are to create residential housing. And so this bylaw as written would limit accessory dwelling units to residents of Stockbridge. It is not intended to create a second rental unit for someone who's renting their house out. It requires owner occupancy in the first one, which is a full-time residential requirement.
Okay.
But we don't have to write it that way, but that's the way this draft is written.
I think that's a
You
good
know,
idea.
my concern with, I think that we're trying to create housing, not create opportunities for Airbnb folks to make even more money on a property here. And so this is one way to do that, is the bylaw limits it to one rental unit per property.
With the homeowner
Full-time.
full-time on the property.
Yeah, to get a permit to put in the ADU, you have to be a full-time homeowner. Okay. And that's the key decisions on this one. Are there any questions or comments from the board on this?
No, I like
I think it'll be
that.
helpful.
How about from the public? Does anybody out there have any questions or comments on this proposed bylaw before we, before we consider whether to refer to the planning board?
Then all zones.
It's in all zones, yes. Anybody else? Okay, then. I make a motion. So just to explain how the process works, and Michael, correct me if I'm wrong. If we take the action of referring this to the planning board, they have 65 days to act upon that referral and 21 days to then, to have a hearing on the bylaw and then 21 days to render an opinion. That would then come back to us. It is not veto power. We can then incorporate what changes, if any, we want to make that the planning board recommends, and we can still make town meeting for this May. It's a tight schedule, but that's why I kind of worked hard to get it out there. So I make a motion that we refer the accessory dwelling unit bylaw as proposed to the planning board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, that one's done. Okay. The second one, can you bring up the second one? Yep. All right. There, I do want to just disclose that the residential inclusionary bylaw is based on a bylaw that is in the Lennox zoning bylaws. And before you wonder if plagiarism is a problem with town government, this is a really standard way for towns. Much of the bylaws between towns are often, based on work that was done in other towns. In fact, Michael suggests up to 90% of the kind of stuff that we come up with is stuff that, comes from collaborating with other towns. So residential inclusionary bylaw is basically an attempt to help fund some of the significant costs of affordable housing by tying developments to large developments to commitment or requirement to contribute to either include an affordable housing unit but based on some formula, or to make a payment into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund based on some formula. Lennox has done this for a number of years successfully, and one thing we know about Lennox is they're very pro-development. They have very large-scale and extensive developments, and they've had this in place for a long time, and they've done it successfully. So this is I think something we can learn from our neighbors, and what I based it on. I will say I did initially consider modifying this to include not only housing units but hotel rooms, and they debated that option at Mears Harrington, our law firm, in the last few days, and Donna Brewer came back to us and suggested I strike that from the draft. That she felt that it was problematic for a number of reasons that I won't go into, but mostly if we want to tie affordable housing to a hotel development, almost any new hotel development in Stockbridge is going to be in a cottage area estate, and we have a cottage area estate bylaw, which is a special permit, and we can condition the special permit with affordable housing if we so desire. That's a decision that the future select board in conjunction with the rest of the town can make, and that there's no need to put it in here. So in the draft on page 1, there's 2 places in the proposed bylaw where hotel rooms are mentioned, and I'm going to strike both of them. We'll recommend that we strike both of them before we refer it to the planning board. Otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward formula. Basically, you build 10 units, you got to contribute a minimum of 1 dwelling unit, 10 to 19 units. You do 20 to 29 units, you got to contribute up to 2 units. Either make them available on your property or contribute to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund so the town can invest in affordable housing. And if you do 30 or more, it's 10%. And if it's less than 35, it rounds down. If it's more than 35, it rounds up. So it's pretty straightforward. It's basically for every 10 units you get to build, you got to build 1 affordable unit. I will say, that a lot of folks in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund committee have been working really hard on a number of issues, including issues at our current affordable housing developments at Keaton Court and at Pine Woods. And in both developments, there's a fairly significant shortfall of deferred maintenance that we're going to have to take a look at. And, the funding for these sort of things at the state level is highly competitive. And Stockbridge was the first to use CPA funds, to community preservation funds, to actually build public housing and affordable housing. And I think that's great. But we're going to need to do a deep dive into what those needs are over the next several years and work with Construct and the Stockbridge Housing Authority on those issues. And I think it's great if a developer wanted to put 1 or 2 units for a 20-unit development into their development. And I think it's equally great if they want to help us maintain places like Keaton Court and Stockbridge Housing Authority. So that's pretty much that one. Do you guys have any comments on this one?
No, it's great.
No.
All right, so I'm going to make a motion that we refer this with the changes, with the removal of the hotel rooms, to the planning board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thanks. I believe that's the entire agenda. Did I miss anything this week?
Public comment.
What? Oh, public comment. Is there any public comment? Yes.
Oh.
Public comment. We've got a little dilemma here.
What?
It's just come to our attention by Mr. Canales that there's some suggestion that the planning board has jurisdiction over this conversion, because there is a section that says conversion of an accessory structure to an existing, because there's a conversion of accessory structure that is existing before January 1st, 1990 into one or more dwelling units, you need a special permit from the planning board. My suggestion, and I looked at this before, is that no, that is, the planning board does not have jurisdiction over this because the selectmen have the,
Oh, we had the authority.
you have the authority, well, if they didn't have a pre-existing non-conforming structure on the property, I agree. If this was a conforming structure, she would definitely have had to come under that provision. However, your bylaw gives you the right, the authorization to reconstruct a structure to provide for its use for a substantially different purpose. And that's what you just did. If the town council, and then I don't know if the town council has rendered opinion on this or where that's at, but if town council says, oh, yes, you do need to come under this as well, then Linda Schaffoff would withdraw the provision in the special permit you just granted for her to use this as a dwelling, as an apartment, because she needs to get this thing constructed and she would just use the whole thing as home occupation.
And the reason being is, mortgage rates. You guys want this to be affordable. Mortgage rates are sailing out of the, I need to get this building up. And so somebody needs to be able to let me know if that's the case. Because if I now have to see the planning board and the planning board's got to get to you and the town council, I mean, it'll be
Months.
advertising months and then the rates double, then I mean,
Right.
I'll get I want to get this building built, and if you guys want to infight, then that's fine, and I'll come back at a later date, but for now, I'll use it as my home office and a space up there until all this gets figured out, but I can't be just pushed down the road 30, 60, 90 days on.
Do we have to do it?
Do we have well, look, I have no problem with the special permit standing as is.
I thought we had the jurisdiction.
I think you do.
Didn't the lawyer say we had it?
Well, the lawyers are saying that it does not alleviate the need, since you're having an accessory dwelling unit on it, that under 4.4, the section that was read, you would still need to get the special permit also from the planning board.
But town council-
Not one or the other.
Town council has taken that position already.
Yes.
All right, so here's what we'd like to do. We'd like to reopen that public hearing and withdraw the portion of their application for the dwelling portion of it, so that all you're going to grant them is a special permit to expand the pre-existing non-conforming structure to be used as a home occupation. And she has plans.
Okay.
That's what we need to do, and then I'll come back at a later date and when and figure out the planning board thing and spend months once I'm building. And if I don't get it, I don't get it. I use it as a home office and a gym and,
So you're planning that,
Bummer.
but hopefully we won't have to get to that, but at least I can get started.
No, I get it.
It doesn't go
That's a
from
bummer.
3% to
So-
7%.
you'd be-
So-
so you're saying is you'd be building a building downstairs with the office, upstairs would be empty.
I just kind of drew it, here's a little bit bigger one you can see it. I'll just use the upstairs as like a little gym and another office. I'll just have a finished building and outside doesn't change at all. And then we can figure out what the deal is between the planning board and the select board. And if I can, then I'll come back for the accessory dwelling part. It's just,
I have a suggestion, okay? If we can,
Can we legally do this?
but hold on, just hold on.
You need
Hold
to
on.
reopen the hearing.
And hold on.
Well, I just want to,
Before we reopen the hearing, I have a suggestion. We can reopen the hearing. We could have a 15-minute meeting of the select board a week from today and reopen the hearing at that point. Can you give us a day to see if we can convince town council of your position?
Sure.
And then we can reopen the public hearing in a week if necessary, if we can't convince her.
Is that
And if we can, let me finish. And if we can convince her, then the permit as is stands.
Right.
Okay.
You can convince her.
If we can convince her, the permit stands. And if we can't convince her, I will schedule another select board meeting next Thursday. And we'll come in, we'll reopen the public hearing and we'll accommodate you as necessary.
oh,
Is that prudent?
Well, you still need to reopen
we
right
still
here.
have to
and then-
why
reopen.
can't we open it here and vote on
And
this
clean it up and,
so she can build?
Yeah, that's what, I think that's.
because the
what we
bank
prefer to
rates
do.
change every day.
Yeah.
Just allow
I
her
think
to
that's-
build the building.
Yeah,
The
Make her
exterior
nervous.
won't change. What you're allowing is a home occupation for both floors.
right.
Then were she to need to, she can then, during the course of construction, go before the planning board and see if she can get that permit. But she,
But
it's
no,
required.
but alleviate her stress of the banking part.
yeah, and getting to construction, because there's an appeal period and there's, this is, so what we would prefer.
No,
quite
probably
frankly.
happen is our ADU would pass first and you'd be all set.
No, but
Yeah,
You will be, you'll be set. If that passes, you'll be set.
So, but at least I can get going
yeah.
and then we can figure, but it seems it seems.
So I'll make a motion.
I really don't want to lose this unit. This is like,
Well, that's,
And we're not losing it, it's just gonna come later.
The only
But
thing
this-
is whether or not you have the jurisdiction because to allow the accessory. You can allow, yes, this part is clear, right?
Yeah,
Here's my other thought.
The other part.
So planning board says-
It will go.
Here's my other
I'll still
thought.
do the same thing.
She needs to get a building permit.
yes.
So if she gets a building permit to build this, she can build the interior any way she builds it. She just can't get a certificate of occupancy for the dwelling unless she has town council's agreement that it's not needed because what you did was authorized. Or town council says you need something from the planning board and they go before the planning board.
And I have plenty of time during the construction, by the time I get the foundation in the building, that I can work it out with the
Yeah.
town. By that time, I even am ready to start hanging sheetrock.
Yeah.
look, I'll take whatever recommendation you want, but I'm just going to say that there are so often times when I watch our public meetings where we see council on behalf of the applicant make recommendations in some of our public meetings that are not necessarily in the town's interest, but they get taken. And in this one case, we've got someone who's making a recommendation of a position that is in the town's interest and we're about to lose a unit over it. And I think
no, it's not gonna lose it, it's delayed, not lost.
Yeah. Oh,
I
no,
agree.
no, as we're discussing this, I'm thinking quite frankly, that we don't need to reopen, but you still can go, because I think that even what you've done tonight, even though that she can still get a building permit to build the structure, because you've authorized the building of the structure. What's going on inside, if town council takes the position, then she'll either just change what she's doing inside and not use the portion of the permit that
Are
allows
you
the
sure?
the use.
Because, do you agree with this? Because because you're
I
putting
think we have
conditions
to-
on my permit for rentals.
For rental, right.
Well, I think we
So,
have to open
I think
it, I think we have to change it, clean up what we did, and then you have to go to planning board.
If I need to go to the planning.
Well, we're hoping that
Lori will
there's no
talk to town council, and if I don't have to come, if I don't, I don't, or if I come back here and we just in a week.
So can we,
Well, let's answer Lori's question first. Michael, what is your thought on that?
My thought is that it can be built, right? You're not gonna be able to get an occupancy permit without it being approved as an accessory dwelling unit. That's the only difference.
Yeah, so I think that she can build this with
Okay.
what you've done.
we
And,
gotta take out the,
no, I don't think you have to take out, she can choose to build something less than you approved. She can choose not to put the dwelling in.
So I can use this plan for the building department
that doesn't
have the kitchen in it.
Well, no, you can use the building
but
plan.
if you don't have the kitchen, you have to go to the.
All right, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
But nobody knows whether I have to go to the planning board or not, or town council, I guess, said I did,
The condition is moot if you don't put a unit up there. The condition is
right.
on
Yeah.
that unit, so it doesn't matter.
And I'm fine. Then as long as that's the case, that I can go to the building department and pull the permit and get started, and while I'm doing that, go to the planning board, and if the planning board for some reason says no, then I never put the
Yeah.
kitchen in and I just have the dwelling.
Anyways, the ADU passes and you put it out there.
There you go. Yeah. But as long as that's everybody's
What do we
clear.
have to do?
Do we have to
I
do
don't think we
anything?
need to do anything.
So-
So we don't have to do anything. All right.
And this is
Our-
all on record too.
But,
Oh,
we're strongly, at least speaking for myself, I strongly support this project.
Oh, yeah,
And
100%.
that is the position I will, advocate for. Thanks, sorry about the confusion.
So we're,
Better safe than sorry.
Motion is on this information.
Perfect. Thank you again.
Thank you. All right, motion, did we get through everything? I think we did.
Yes,
So motion to adjourn.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a good week, folks.